and this is your f of x. So all you have to do is plug those into this formula here, and that's how you'll solve for a. Okay, so using this formula here, we have -2 equals a times 0 plus 3, 0 minus 2, squared, and 0 minus 5. Okay, so that leaves us with -2 equals a times 3. -2 times -2 is +4 times -5. Okay, so that means -2 equals a. -5 times 4 is -20, times 3 is -60. So -60a. So if we divide both sides by 60, we end up with a equals +1/30. Okay, so now we just plug that into that formula. That means our f of x is going to equal, move that up some. Plugging in our a, we have 1/30. X plus 3, x minus 2 squared, x minus 5. As your final answer. Yep, it's one of those problems that warrant the big exhale. All right. Any questions on that one? Uh-oh. All right. So we'll do one more. So for this one, well, they tell you what degree it is for this one, but even if they didn't, all you'd have to do is look at the turning points. 3 turning points, you add 1 to it, that's how many degrees you have. Some of them, they'll tell you how many degrees, some they won't. Okay. All right, so remember, the first thing you want to do is you want to find your x-intercepts. Okay, so we can see at -2 and 4, those are your x-intercepts. -2 and 4. Okay, so since we have 2 x-intercepts, we're going to start with kind of a blank canvas function of 2. So we'll start with f of x equals a times x minus x1 of some exponent and x minus x2 of some exponent. Okay, because remember, this is your x1 and x2. You can't have more factors than you have x-intercepts. All right, so your second step, you can see that at -2, it kind of bounces off x equals -2. Okay, so you know whenever it bounces off, it's an even degree. Okay, same thing with 4. You can see it kind of bounces off 4. Okay, so whenever it bounces off, it's an even degree. Okay, so the third step is where I kind of plug everything in. So that gives us our f of x equals x, well, a, don't forget that, x minus x1, so that's x minus negative 2, some exponent, times x minus 4, or x minus x2, to some exponent. Okay. So we know if the degree is 4, this is even and this is even, the only way that would be true is if they were both squared. And most of them will wind up being to the first power of squared. You may get one or two that's to the third power, but they usually kind of work themselves out. Okay, so f of x equals a. X minus negative 2 is x plus 2 squared. And x minus 4 is x minus 4 squared. Okay, so we see we have our degree 4. Any questions on that step? All right. So now we get our fourth step, because now we have everything we need, but we just have to solve for a. Okay. So to solve for a, that's when we get our y-intercept. Okay, so our y-intercept, which we can see from the graph, when x equals 0, y is equal to negative 4. Oh, negative 4. Okay, so remember that's your x, and that's your f of x. Clean that up some. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so we have our y-intercept. So all we have to do is plug this to solve for a. Okay, so if we plug those in, we end up with f of x is negative 4, so that's negative 4 equals a. Remember, all your x's are zeros. So you have 0 plus 2 squared times 0 minus 4 squared. Okay, so that means you have negative 4 equals a. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. Okay, so we have negative 4 equals 64a. Divide both by 64, you end up with negative 116. Okay, so now that we have that, we just plug it in. So f of x is equal to negative 116 times x plus 2 squared times x minus 4 squared. Okay, so if you notice, now that we know what our function is, you have a negative lead coefficient, which means if it's a negative lead coefficient, it's flipped over the x-axis, so you notice that's facing down. It's degree 4, so it's an even degree. So you know if it's an even degree, well, if this would have been positive, it's kind of similar to negative x squared, where it kind of points down and to the right and down to the left. Like I said, in between, it wiggles and everything else based on all that other stuff. But we know here it's going to be down to the left, down to the right, just like negative x squared. So, bring it up just here. All right. So there we go. So any questions on this one? All right. So I'll leave it there for today. Okay. If you have any questions or anything you need to go over, please feel free to hang around.